Hello everyone and Happy New Year! I love the new year. I know technically not that much has changed from December 31st to January 1st, but I do still just feel that fresh start, that fresh energy, and it feels very motivating to me and exciting to me personally. And I'm not much of like a resolution person, but I do have general goals. I tend to have a word of the year, and I tend to just have like overarching themes that I would like my year to look like. And I don't know, I just find a lot of energy and excitement in that. I'm very nervous. I'm gonna spill my coffee on my computer yet again. Not again spill, I am yet again nervous. Thus far, I have not spilled. I've been talking the last few months about this reading slump that I've been in. This giant, annoying, strange reading slump in which I have been reading books, but I have just felt so unmotivated. I have not enjoyed reading as much, and I've had to kind of force myself to pick up books, even books that I was actually enjoying. So I am pleased to report that that reading slump appears to be over. And December was a wonderful reading month. I enjoyed my reading, and even with all of the busyness of the season, I read 12 books. 2 of which I do have to say were novellas. And yes, I did read them because I was trying to finish my Goodreads goal, but also they've been sitting on my Kindle since February, and I wanted to finish them up and be able to return them back to Kindle Unlimited. So it was a win-win. I was at my sister's over New Year's, and in between all of the other things we were doing, I was trying to get in one final book to finish my goal of 100 books. I did finish it, but then when I went to log it in Storygraph, I realized I had neglected to record a different book. So I actually read 101 books in 2024. So that was an exciting find. Also, in case you hear other noise, my son is in the other room watching a Minecraft tutorial video, so if you hear that, that is what is going on. Okay, now that I've moved my computer over here to save it from my coffee, let's see if I can do my stats. So I read a total of 12 books for a total of 3,754 pages. The longest book I read was 528 pages, and the shortest book was 40 pages. 4 books were hard copies, 4 were audiobooks, 4 were ebooks. So it was an even split, 4, 4, and 4. 6 I got from the library or the Libby app, 1 I purchased, 1 I borrowed from a friend, and 4 were Kindle Unlimited. Hi, future editing Bonnie here. I had filmed this whole next part and I had the video edited and ready to upload, and I realized I actually wanted to change something that I said. So refilming. So I think I was just getting like more complicated in what I was trying to say, and so I decided to simplify. So starting in January, I am changing the way that I am doing my monthly wrap-ups. I don't know if it's going to be permanent. I don't know. I'm sure I'm still going to be tweaking it, and I have a few reasons for doing this. But what I'm going to try is, instead of wrapping up or talking about every book that I read that month, I want to highlight just my top reads from the month, whether that's my top 4 or 5 or however many I want to highlight, and maybe not always necessarily just my favorites, but just picking the books that I want to highlight that month instead of doing all of them. So that is what I was trying to convey, but this was a much more concise version. So there you have it. I am going to put a graphic up on some side of the screen, we will see when I edit, of all of the books that I read this month, all 12. I can't even believe after so many months of not enjoying reading, getting 12 books in right at the end. So for the books that I would like to highlight for December, the first one I want to highlight, A Well-Trained Wife by Tia Levings. I finished this at the beginning of December. I did mention it in my end of year book tag a couple times in there, but I am going to highlight it again because it was a very good book. Tia talks in this book about leaving her abusive religious environment and her abusive marriage, about what it looks like to find and rediscover yourself after years and years of emotional and spiritual and mental and all types of abuse that you could possibly think of. I first heard of this book because Tia was in the same cult that I grew up in, and she does talk about some of that in her memoir. At first, I did not know if I wanted to read this because I didn't know if it would be too triggering, but I'm so glad that I did. It was triggering. There were some parts where I had to just close the book and set it down for a while to come back to later. Even though my story does not have all the same facets and pieces of hers, there were several parts in that book that really resonated with me, and the way that she talked about coming out of those mindsets and the teachings and finding herself again. It was really, really good. I already know that I want to get a copy of my own. I got this from the library, but I want to own this so that I can read it again. Maybe even underline, which is saying a lot because I almost never write in books, but this book was really good. The next book I want to highlight is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. Holly Jackson wrote The Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I was blanking. The Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I really enjoyed the first book in that series. The Reappearance of Rachel Price, I believe, came out early 2024, I want to say, and I had been wanting to read it for so long, and I finally was able to get a copy from the library. I listened to this on audio, and it was a really fun audio book to listen to, and I also just really enjoyed the story. This book is about Belle, who is 18 years old, and we're kind of figuring out in the first few pages and chapters that 16 years ago, her mother, Rachel Price, disappeared, and for 16 years, people have been trying to figure out what happened to her. And now someone is trying to make a documentary about her disappearance. So they are going around town interviewing family and friends, people from the town, etc., when all of a sudden, in walks Rachel Price. And of course, that turns everything upside down. Belle's trying to figure out what happened, who can she trust, what's the actual story, who's telling the truth and who's lying. It was really good. If you enjoy a young adult thriller / mystery, this was a really fun one. Next is By Any Other Name by Jodi Picoult. This was technically the book club pick for November, I want to say. I did finish it in December, and I enjoyed this one. It was historical fiction, which is not my typical genre. However, I love dual timelines. No, I don't love dual timelines. I love dual point of views. It was dual timeline and dual point of view. I love the dual point of view with a person in present day, Melina, who is a playwright. And she has an experience early on that really highlights for her how much harder it is for her as a woman to get her work taken seriously. She discovers that she is related to this woman from the 1500s, Amelia Bassano, and she decides, did I say 1800s? 1500s? I don't know what I'm saying at this point. Amelia Bassano in the 1500s, and Melina decides to start doing more research into her ancestor, and so Amelia is the second point of view. So we have present day with Melina and then the 1500s with Amelia. Most of the book, I feel like, was spent on Amelia. When it starts out, she is 13, and through a series of events, she is sold by her family to this much, much older person to be his companion. Now, this man, as much as possible in a power and age dynamic at play, which obviously I have thoughts about, allowed her some space to use her brain and intellect, which nobody had ever done before. So Amelia was able to find ways to exist within the system that she was born into as a woman, to keep this man happy and also to pursue one of her dreams, which was writing. The man, as it turns out, I'm blanking on his name, so I'll just keep calling him the man. The man, as it turns out, would review screenplays and decide which ones would get put on as plays. My cat is driving me nuts. Okay, he just does not like closed doors, so we'll see if he keeps scratching to get in and then come out. See, he just wanted out and now he wants back in. This guy. Okay. Anyways, I do not know where I was. Oh yes, so he would review screenplays. And Amelia would kind of take a peek at some of these screenplays and make some of her own suggestions, and she started writing her own screenplays on the side. Through a series of events, things happen, etc., etc. Amelia ends up meeting a man named William Shakespeare, and she sells some of her plays that she wrote to William Shakespeare, and then Shakespeare signed his name to them and put them on as his own plays. And some of those, The Taming of the Shrew, Hamlet, I think, I'm trying to remember which ones. Dickens, I need you to please stop. Thank you. Lie down, take a nap. Do you want your chair back? I can move my computer. Hop up here. No. Let's see if he follows my sage advice. Oh, okay. So apparently in real life, I feel like I'd heard inklings of this throughout the years, but I did not know that there is actually a lot of evidence that Shakespeare did not write many, if any, of the plays that are attributed to him. And I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs of that, but Jodi Picoult did a lot of this research, and Emilia Bassano is one of the people that could very likely, there's a lot of evidence that a lot of these plays that are attributed to Shakespeare were actually written by her in real life, not just in this novel. So it was very interesting. I loved all of those aspects and the historical pieces that Jodi Picoult brought in. And then in Emilia's timeline, which I don't want to give spoilers, but the way that in Melina's timeline, not only were there still the aspects of feminism and inequality in the playwright spaces, but it was also talking about intersectionality and how as a woman, she was not taken as seriously as her male counterparts. Her best friend, who was a Black gay male, was taken even less seriously. And he's also a playwright trying to get his plays published. So I loved that there were big discussions within this book, a lot of things to think about, and the ways that the story brought these things to light and to life. It was just very well done, in my opinion. And since a Shakespeare book is on my 40 before 40 list, I am definitely more excited now to read a Shakespeare than I was when I made that video. When I made that video, I was just like, I should probably read a Shakespeare, you know, it's a classic. And now I'm like, I want to read a Shakespeare, and I'm definitely going to pick one that likely could have been written by Emilia Bassano. I still don't know yet which one. I want to do some more reading into it, but that it was also really cool because in the book, which obviously a lot of it was fictionalized as far as like what was Emilia thinking and all of these things that nobody probably really knows, because to my knowledge, it's not like we have journal entries. But thinking about some of these plays and some of the things that were going on in Emilia's life that we do know that could have influenced the writing. So it changes the dynamic when you think about this man writing the play as opposed to, for specifically the Taming of the Shrew. I love the way that could take on a whole different framework. And I'm not going to do it justice trying to recreate all of this, but if you read By Any Other Name, it does talk about it some, and I'm sure that there's a lot more online as well. I do want to do some more looking into that because that is fascinating to me. This next book is a poetry book, and that is Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. This book was lent to me by a friend, and I really liked it. It is split into 4 sections, and each section is kind of talking about a different type of pain and healing from that. And I really liked a lot of the poems that she has in there. A lot of poems about mental health, reclaiming yourself, specifically as a woman, reclaiming your self, your personhood, and your body for yourself and not for any other person or any other man. The poems were just really powerful and really well done, and some beautiful illustrations that went so well with the poetry. The last one I'm going to mention is The Princess Trials by Cordelia Castle. And this book, I don't know if you remember, a while back at some point, I will link to it, I did a bunch of fun bookish related BuzzFeed quizzes, and one of the quizzes was supposed to tell me what my next read should be. So BuzzFeed told me I should read The Princess Trials, and I finally did, and I enjoyed it. It kind of reminded me of The Selection, but with a darker, not like a grittier vibe. I don't know that it'll be a top series or a top read, but the vibe was fun, and it's fun that BuzzFeed told me to, and I am continuing in the series. I got the second book on Kindle Unlimited, so fun little update from my BuzzFeed quiz. For my January TBR, I still have some outstanding books that I started and haven't finished, such as The 12-Week Year, which genuinely would have been a good one to have finished in December so that I could be commencing my 12-week year in January. But, you know, it didn't happen, which is fine. But I definitely do hope to finish that this month. I've already started taking some of the steps that they're talking about and breaking it down for what that could look like for me. And I don't know, well, okay, I'm going to give it until the end of the book for sure. I'm not entirely sure if the system will work super well for me, but there are definitely elements and facets that I think will be super helpful, and I'm excited to see how that helps my writing this year. What else? There's something else. Oh, Frankenstein, which I am really enjoying so far. I think I'm a third of the way through. So I will be continuing that this month, which is the first book from my 40 before 40 list. I'm excited to finish my first one. I'm also reading The Winners by Frederick Bachman. I was going to, you can see the big hole on my shelf where I took it down. but that's where I would be. The Winners, it's the third book in the Beartown series, and I am doing it as a buddy read with one of my friends, and I'm excited. I've read the first 2 chapters, but their chapters are pretty short, so I'm still barely have started, but I'm really excited to get into it. I'm a little, well, nervous is too strong. I'll be interested to see where the story goes and how he wraps everything up, and I'm a little nervous. I hope Benji stays one of my favorite characters because he's so great. And then I know I'm going to be starting Les Miserables, which is also on my 40 before 40 list, and I am really excited about this one. I did end up purchasing a copy of it, and it's supposed to arrive today. I'm really excited. And there are 365 chapters in that book. So I know some people will read a chapter a day and read it in a whole year. I'm trying to decide, well, first, when I get it, I'm going to flip through and see how long these chapters are, and then decide how I want to do it. If I want to try to do that, if I want to read it faster, or what I want that to look like, we'll see. But I'm really excited, and I know sometimes if I have like really high hopes or expectations for a book, it doesn't always pan out, but it's a classic, and I feel like almost everybody likes it, so hopefully the high expectations are warranted. So there is my December reading wrap up and the end of my 2024 wrap ups, which is still wild to me that I did a whole calendar year on BookTube. That's so cool. I am going to try to get some more filming done. Actually, I'm going to try to film a few videos today for my channel and then get some reading done, I hope, this afternoon. So enjoy your reading, enjoy your January, and until next time, happy reading.